political editor Andrew Clennell has also been on the campaign trail with the Labor leader. He's interviewed the shadow Finance Minister Katy Gallagher and Labor campaign spokesperson and quizzed her about the decision by Labor to walk back its commitment to increase the dole.
Katy Gallagher, thanks so much for joining me. The first question's on the Jobseeker. I feel the last 3 years in politics, you don't know what either side of politics stands for, really. I would have thought Labor would carry on that review. Why aren't you?
Well, I think we're inheriting the most diabolical set of budget figures that any government would if we were fortunate to win. So we have to be responsible and modest in what we can promise in the lead into the election. But we are coming at this from different ways with our policy. We're focusing not just on the payment side, but on housing, childcare, renewable energy, lowering the power prices. Those are the policies that we are wrapping around those low income and fixed income households. We want to see better supported, but we also have to be responsible fiscally with the budget.
Do you also have the view that basically with 4% unemployment, sorry to raise that figure again, Australians, if they want a job, can get a job at the moment? Does that factor into a decision not to increase that payment?
Well, I think there's certainly skill shortages and plenty of jobs available. So that is part of, the policy settings that we are inheriting. But I think from any point of view, we do acknowledge that cost of living and low-income households are doing it tough. But we think there are different ways that you can put policies around that to support those households. And, to be honest, we're inheriting a deficit in the order of $80 billion. We have to be responsible. We don't have access to all of the government's books. We need to understand fully any implications where we are making big costing promises.
So are you anticipating a potential budget black hole if you were to win government, that sort of discovery?
Not necessarily, but this government has been pretty clever about how they hide money in the budget and then use it at different times. And we don't have full line of sight on that, but we do acknowledge that we're going in with big deficits, for as far as the eye can see, significant debt, and we need to understand the implications of that if we form government. We don't have that line of sight and we have to be fiscally responsible.
Well, your budget repair strategy seems about reducing consultants. This is a time-honoured sort of election campaign line, by the way, reducing consultants and reducing waste. How much money a year, how many dollars a year do you think you can recoup from addressing that?
We'll be releasing that before the election, Andrew, but we do think, this is an area I've been working on in relation to consultants, labour hire, contractors across the public service. There's no doubt it's gone skyrocketing over the last few years. We think there are opportunities to make pretty significant savings there. You'll have to reinvest.
Billions?
Yeah, I think it's in the order of billions. You'd have to reinvest a bit into capacity within the APS because we've lost a lot of internal skills. So there's a rebalancing that has to happen, but we do think there's a net overall save in the billions.
So you'll be hiring more public servants, is that what you're saying?
Well, we'd be making sure the public service can do the job it was meant to do, and it's lost. Like some departments don't even have policy capability anymore. The government's outsourcing that to the private sector. We do think there needs to be a rebalancing within the public sector, but we do think there's absolutely a net save in terms of the money that's been spent on labour hiring consultants in particular.
Anthony Albanese's gaffe the other day, you obviously came and gave the correct answer. Did that rock you a bit?
Look, it was a difficult moment. I'm not going to pretend that it was a difficult moment, but we've moved on. Albo apologised. He made a mistake. We're all human. I think everyone could feel that. I've made mistakes. I've forgotten numbers. It's the reality sometimes when you're placed in a position on the spot. But I think the measure of how you deal with that is really important. You dust yourself up, you get back on, you get back out there. It's a long campaign and we have to keep doing that.
After that, do you still feel confident about your prospects?
Absolutely, because I think people know it's more than about one era on the campaign trail. It's about the future of the country. I think we've got the policies and the leadership that provides a really alternative to the current government who's asking for a second decade in power. And I think people are right to say, is this as good as it gets under this mob? Because they're not going to get any better. And we've got a really positive, optimistic vision. And Albo's a great leader. He's got all of the attributes for a Prime Minister and a really good one.
You've been campaigning your side a lot on Scott Morrison's dishonest, he's tricky with words, etc. We've got this story this morning about Anthony Albanese's pastors. He said, I was an economic policy advisor for the Hawke government. but he was an advisor. He was a junior advisor to a junior minister who was of the left, really. So, is that being a little bit tricky? I mean, when I heard him say that yesterday, I thought, gee, he was an advisor to Bob Hawke.
Well, he was an advisor in the Hawke government. I mean, we all use our staff for a variety of topics and skills. I think that, he knows best what job he did. I don't know, going back to that time, the specific nature of everybody's job, but Albo knows. He's an honest guy. He explained it yesterday. And, staffers do a huge amount of work in advising governments, whether they're for junior ministers or more senior ministers in the cabinet. They have a range of skills, and it's a great experience, really, in understanding exactly the importance of the economy in Australia.
And finally, you're a former ACT Chief Minister. Anthony Albanese's spoken a bit about federation reform. What's your view of what could occur there, and what's your view of the National Cabinet process?
Well, I think the National Cabinet process has, I think it's fractured the Federation in a way from when I sat at COAG. It was a much more collaborative, equal partnership. It seems, National Cabinet was sort of a construct to, in a sense, become a PR machine through the pandemic. So I think there's a real opportunity to get back to working with the states around the table. I think it should be not too ambitious because it's hard to get through some reforms, but if you pick off a couple of areas where you want to work with the states and territories on improving things, I think there's a real opportunity. Less division, more consensus and agreement about what needs to get done.
Katy Gallagher, thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Andrew.